Go Falcons! Big day. It's great to be back at the Air Force Academy at the altitude of 7,258 feet above sea level, far, far above that of West Point or Annapolis. I figured I should say that, so my Air Force One pilots, Colonel Kirkland, class of '99, and Colonel Donnelly, class of '01, make sure they are willing to take me back to D.C. I also brought with me today my Air Force and Space Force military aides, Lieutenant Colonel John Rowe, class of '07, Lieutenant Colonel Ann Hughes, class of '08. These officers travel the world with me, demonstrating, and I mean this sincerely, demonstrating the values of this institution every single day. It's no exaggeration to say I trust my life to Academy graduates. And some of my team members have trusted their lives to Academy cadets. A few months ago, I called to speak to my national security advisor. He was out here, but I was told he was unavailable. Turns out, Firstie Andrew Deaver had him out doing loops and barrel rolls on a glider. I asked if I could do that today, and the Secret Service said, no, we'll have to shoot it down. Look, thank you, Colonel Clark, Lieutenant General Clark, and to all the faculty and staff here at the Academy for your dedication and commitment in shaping the next generation of American air power and space power. And thank you to all the parents and families and sponsor families out there in the stands. You supported these cadets throughout their lives. You taught them how to stand up, never bow, never bend, never yield. You inspired them to put integrity first, to choose service over self. Sounds like hyperbole, but it's literally what you did. To pursue excellence in all they do. But I know you're bursting with pride at what they've already accomplished. So graduates, give your families a round of applause. Stand up and give them a round of applause. Show them your appreciation. I think they're excited. The only thing your moms and dads are saying is, I wish I could have paid for this education. Every other graduation I do, and I've done a lot of graduations, college graduations, I usually say, parents, today you all get a pay raise, no more tuition. But Secretary Kendall, General Brown, General Saltzman, thank you for leading our Air Force and our Space Force to take on the missions that most matter for today and the future, so we can continue to maintain air and space superiority, just as we have in every U.S. conflict in this century. But graduates, you're not just commissioning into the Air Force and Space Force, you're commissioning into a joint force. One thing working more closely together across the service branches than ever before in new ways to deter, if necessary, defeat every threat to our nation. Last week, I was proud, and I mean it sincerely, to nominate your Air Force Chief General C.Q. Brown, Jr., the next chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Stand up, General. General, our country thanks you, and I look forward to working with you as chairman. And these graduates will have the additional pride of starting their careers of service led by a general that might say, butt-kicking American airmen. I think you used that phrase. Class of 2023? All right, man, you better. This is a day you've worked hard to reach. Think back to that first day of basic, when the bus dropped you off at the footprints. You didn't know what the hell lay ahead. Maybe you were wondering what exactly you'd gotten yourself into. And then, after a few days of acclimating, getting yelled at nonstop by your cadre, hearing those words that meant it would only get worse, quote, the PT ban has been lifted. As if that's a good thing, right? The PT ban has been lifted. Marching down to Jack's, building tent city, even sweeping the dirt to make it look like there were hallways. You know, before making a pass, the assault course fall, and the assault course Nunez. And I tell you what, you're all crazy. But at any rate, no, I'm all kidding. Remember the pride you felt joining the flying wedge in the T-zone. The first time during the Acceptance Day parade, only to face an even more difficult challenge when the school year began. Academics. It wasn't all push-ups and cramming for Prague Week, though to set the Guinness Book of Records, world records, most simultaneous push-ups, there had to be an enormous amount of push-ups. Beyond you, but all of you, I think you had some fun along the way. Maybe a good use of your epic passes. That would be reason enough to join. Had a few steaks and tortellini dinners. Celebrate commitment and job drops. I got to see some of you at the White House a few weeks ago to celebrate winning the Commander-in-Chief trophy for the 21st time. When I was graduating from high school 300 years ago, I applied to the Naval Academy. And I was picked by the senator. There's two ways senators can pick. They can pick individually, or they can name 10 people and let the academy choose. I was a relatively good football player, so I had a shot. I remember the day that a guy named Steve Dunning from my class was also nominated. Drove up, was about 7 in the morning. We were going to drive down to Annapolis. And I had just heard the night before they had a halfback named Joe Bellino, won the Heisman Trophy, and a quarterback named Roger Staubach. I went to Delaware. Blue Horizons rocketry team managed to send the superintendent's flight cap all the way to space. I don't know whether he knew it or not. But even more impressive, you got it back, some 70 miles away. Of course, there may also have been achievements of less sterling nature. Maybe you had to do a few tours. Maybe you're one of the cadets who decided to enjoy the view from the top of the chapel in the box. So before I forget, since I was one of those schools at a state university, I found myself in a little bit of trouble a couple of times. I really wish that a commander-in-chief had spoken at my graduation, because I have the power to hereby waive any confinements or restrictions of minor cadet disciplinary systems violations. They're waived. Man, I wish at my commencement the Speaker had that power. Look, after 4 long years, you pushed to the limits and forged into leaders of character. And after finally getting to jump into the fountain, you commissioned as a second lieutenant of the United States Air Force, the United States Space Force. Part of the greatest, and this is not hyperbole, you're part of the greatest fighting force in the history of the world. That is the truth. That's the God's truth. That's not an exaggeration. We have the finest military in the history of the world. And you've earned it. And this day is the day to celebrate. And as your Commander-in-Chief, I'm honored to be here as you take on the duties of serving and defending our nation. In the years to come, you'll have even more asked of you. You'll take on greater responsibilities, and you'll be challenged even beyond everything you've yet experienced. But you have those mountains. You leave them as you look at them. I'm sure you're going to be thinking about this a lot as you're moving through your careers. As you leave these mountains, where the air is rare, you're going to take with you the confidence that your years have prepared you for whatever is ahead. After all, your time at this proud institution is defined by so much history, so much tradition, and marked by significant change, as was referenced earlier. Unlike classes that preceded you, you've had to adapt and overcome time and again, to reorient yourself together with your squadron and your wing and find new ways to soar. As been mentioned already, when COVID hit during your fourth-degree year, you had to rapidly redeploy back to your homes and learn new ways to study and maintain camaraderie during COVID station. And by the way, I wonder how many of you had to kick your brother out of your room when you went back. But all kidding aside, recognition may have been cut short, but it came back in the fall. You did the run to the rock. You earned the prop and wings, just like every cadet before you. Resilience, creativity, endurance, commitment. These have been essential parts of your unique academy training. And you're going to need those qualities as you continue your careers, because the world you're graduating into is not only changing rapidly, the pace of change is accelerated as well. We're seeing proliferating global challenges, from Russia's aggression and brutality in Europe to our competition with China and a whole hell of a lot in between. From growing instability to food insecurity to natural disasters, all of which are being made worse by the existential threat of climate change. I don't hear many of my friends anymore saying there's no climate change. We're finally figured it out. Been trying to push that since 1981. But we're seeing engaging technology, emerging technologies. All AI, from AI and 3D printing, that could change the character of conflict itself. Not going to be easy decisions, guys. I met in the Oval Office, in my office, with 8 leading scientists in the area of AI. Some are very worried that AI can actually overtake human thinking and planning. So we got a lot to deal with. Incredible opportunity, but a lot to deal with. We're also working across multiple domains, developing new capabilities, like our new next-gen B-21 Raider. And you're going to be flying that sucker. And we're going to count on you to keep us at the forefront of air and space dominance, enabling an entire joint force to be stronger. Graduates, you've made a noble choice to lead a life of service. Now, you also shoulder a great privilege and a mighty responsibility. Leadership. Yeah, leadership, a word often used. In the years ahead, your airmen and guardians are going to look to you for guidance and inspiration, because the world's going to get more confusing. They'll put their trust in you, and you in turn must strive to always be worthy of their confidence. Listen to them. Listen to them. I've always believed that America's strongest when we lead, not only by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. Let me say it again. I've traveled the entire world, been in almost every country. The reason we're respected so much is not just our power, but the power of our example. And it matters. It matters. The same is going to be true in your own experience of leadership. No matter what changes or challenges come, your character, your moral clarity, your capabilities must never waver. Again, not hyperbole. The nation needs you, genuinely needs you. Our world stands at an inflection point. I had a professor who used to say an inflection point is when you're driving your car down the highway at 60 miles an hour and suddenly you turn the wheel 10 degrees. You can never get back on the same track you're on before. The decisions we make today are going to determine what the world looks like decades from now. No graduating class gets to choose the world into which they graduate. Every class enters the history of a nation up to the point that has been written by others. A few classes, once every several generations, enters at a point in our history where they actually have a chance to change the trajectory of the country. It's the only reason I ran. I said to our speaker, I read his article. That's why when I ran, I said I was running for three purposes, two of which were to restore the character of this country, and two, to unite it. You'll face that inflection point today, and I know you're going to meet the moment to make sure that the future we're building is one that fundamentally aligns with our values, protects America's interests. To make sure that our skies and orbits remain open and navigable to everyone. To make sure that new technology is used to lift people up to new heights, new opportunities, not hold them down or exploit them. And to make sure that the fundamental rules of the international system we put in place more than 7 decades ago to prevent another world war are upheld and strengthened to address new threats. One of the greatest strengths the United States of America brings to this effort is one of the greatest assets you will harness throughout your careers. It's our unmatched network of alliances and partners, allies and partners. I've spent the bulk of my first year just reestablishing that, meeting hundreds of hours with our NATO allies and others. Those nations who willingly stand beside us to face down threats and solve shared challenges. You've already gotten some sense of that with the friendship and bonds you've built with the cadets graduating today who will commission in their home militaries across Europe, Middle East, North Africa, the Indo-Pacific. Our partnerships amplify our strength and make us more effective. And don't think our adversaries don't understand it. So they work so damn hard to try to split us. We've seen it over and over again, especially in the global support for the brave people of Ukraine as they defended their families and their homes against Russian brutal assault. Remember what I said? Putin was certain that NATO would crack, that they would not stand together. We put 40 nations together. The United States has rallied the world to stand strong with Ukraine and defend the values that the American people hold so dear: freedom, sovereignty, democracy, simple dignity. Working with a coalition of more than 50 nations, we've delivered historic security assistance that has enabled Ukraine to defend itself. I've been there many times before the war. Spoke of the rod. I've been there since the war began. The United States Air Force and Space Force have been the backbone of that operation, providing airlift capacity and logistical know-how to move artillery, ammunition, fighting vehicles, anti-tank, and air defense systems, providing missile warning, space-based ISR, supporting communications. No other nation in the world, the whole world, has enabling capacity we do, and what we have to do to thank you and your immediate predecessors. Just a few weeks ago, I was with President Zelensky in Hiroshima at the G7. I told him we work with our partners to begin training Ukrainian pilots in Europe on fourth-generation fighter aircraft, including the F-16, so Ukraine can defend itself today and in the future. Ukrainian people's iron resolve to live in freedom will never be broken. They are incredible, average women and men fighting, giving their lives for their country and their families. And the American people's support for Ukraine will not waver. We've always stand up for democracies, always. Well, I ask you to contemplate what happens if it wavers and Ukraine goes down. What about Belarus? What about the rest of Eastern Europe? Look, the G7 also demonstrated remarkable unity in the world's leading democracies when it comes to China. The United States, I've met with Xi Jinping more than any leader in the world, starting back when I was vice president. The United States does not seek conflict or confrontation with China. China and the United States should be able to work together where we can to solve some global challenges like climate. But we are prepared for vigorous competition. And we will stand up for our interests, for our friends, and for our values. With our G7 partners, we should have a set of shared principles for engaging with China and minimizing the threats to our nations. By bolstering our economic security, resisting economic coercion, countering harmful practices, and protecting a narrow set of advanced technologies critical to our national security by not trading them. By working together with nations that share the most fundamental values, we multiply one another's strength and firmly fix a course toward our shared vision for the future. In every part of the world, we've advanced our partnerships in concrete ways and strengthened American security. In the Indo-Pacific, we've deepened our alliance and our trilateral cooperation with Japan and the Republic of Korea, who are now talking together and working together to enhance deterrence against threats in the region, including from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. We've elevated the Quad, bringing together Australia, India, Japan, and the United States to advance an Indo-Pacific that's free and open, prosperous and secure. Didn't exist before. We're delivering on AUKUS, a new strategic partnership that brings the United States close together with Australia and the United Kingdom, two of our most capable allies. NATO is more energized and more united than it's been in decades. It's now even stronger with the accession of our newest ally, Finland, and soon Sweden, in the alliance as soon as possible. It will happen, I promise you. We're working with Canada to upgrade NORAD's capabilities and ensure that North America's air defense surveillance systems are the best in the world. And in just the past 12 months, I've hosted in the United States the leaders of every country in the Western Hemisphere, every country in Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands. We are a Pacific nation. These nations may not all agree with us on every issue, but they want to work with us. They choose us, not because of threats or coercion, but because of the common interests we pursue together to make the world a better and safer place for everyone. That is what the United States stands for. When people around the world see a United States gray tail flying overhead with the stars and stripes on your shoulders, they know what that means, no matter where you go. Freedom, opportunity, possibilities, hope. It's who we are. It's what we fight for. It's why we choose this path. So graduates, as you head out, whether to graduate school or pilot training, to serve as missileers or space operators, scientists or engineers, never forget the sacred oath you swear and the mission you serve is something far, far greater than any person or president. It's our Constitution. It's our country. And it's our enduring American values. You know, we're the most unique nation in the world. And say, well, everybody says, but we are. We're the only nation in the world formed and based on an idea. An idea. Every other nation in the world is formed based on things like geography, ethnicity, religion. We're the only nation built on an idea. That we hold these truths to be self-evident. That all women and men are created equal. Endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights. Life, liberty, pursuit of... That's the organizing principle of America. We haven't always lived up to it, but we never, except on one brief moment, even thought about walking away from it. Generations of our forebears have fought and sacrificed to defend it. Sacrifices we honor earlier this week on Memorial Day. My son was an Army officer, a major. The Attorney General who sought permission to go fight with his unit in Iraq for a year. Unfortunately, his hooch was very close to these burn pits. And he came home with stage 4 glioblastoma and died. I remember looking at him in the bed, listening to God's truth. I hadn't planned on saying this, maybe I shouldn't. But he looked at me and he said, we're talking about the war. He said, Dad, he was Attorney General, odds-on favored to become the governor. He said, Dad, the proudest thing I've ever done in my life is putting on that uniform. The proudest thing. Just before he passed, he said, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. That's what you all are made of as well. Pride. Pride. Not in yourself, but what you're fighting for. It's a sacred charge that you now inherit as well. This year, we mark the 75th anniversary, this year, of an integrated force. The 75th anniversary of women serving in the force. And the 50th anniversary of an all-volunteer military. And your class is one of the most diverse classes in the history of this academy or any academy to graduate. That's why we're strong. That's why we're who we are. That's why we'll never give up. That's why. We also recognize that with every step we've taken to harness the full diversity of our nation, to tap more of our indomitable American spirit, our armed forces have only grown stronger, more effective, and more admired. The same is true of this institution. This year's graduating class is among the most diverse in academy history. You're graduating the highest percentage of women. By the way, I met with, who are those guys that fly over shortly? You heard of them, haven't you? 3 of them are women. So don't screw around, guys. And the highest percentage of minority cadets in history. They're strengthening force, a force that depends on American values that reflect America itself. And each of you has an obligation to treat the airmen and guardians you lead and everyone you encounter with dignity. Your honor code says, we will not lie, steal, or cheat, nor tolerate among us anyone who does. So it's on all of you to root out the scourge of sexual assault and harassment in the military. And to never tolerate it never tolerate it. To make sure that every member of our forces, no matter who they are, who they love, feels safe and respected in the ranks. Class of 2023, you've been trained to lead, to set an example of your leadership for others. You've been given the skill set to think clearly, and make strategic decisions, and to do what is right under pressure. You've earned the trust and respect of your fellow cadets and your instructors. And you are the very embodiment of the American military excellence. And you are ready for anything. Anything. As I look out today, I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic. Never been more optimistic about the future of this country. In no small part because of you. I mean it sincerely. 4 years ago, you arrived as individuals. Today, you're part of a long blue line. Future generations will stand in your footsteps. Strive to meet the heights of your expectations. Draw inspiration from the example of honor and integrity that you're going to set. Held aloft by the core values you learned here. Our Air Force, our Space Force, our Joint Force, indeed our nation, is safe and steady hands with all of you. May God protect you all as you set out on your journeys. And remember, never bend, never bow, never yield. And remember who we are. May the Lord guard and guide the ones who fly through great space and sky. And may God protect all those who wear the uniform of the United States of America. Let us hear this one more time for the class of 2023.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Cadet Class President for 2023, Cadet First Class Usama Bamye, the Summer Cadet Wing Commander, Cadet First Class Julia Gunlock, the Fall Cadet Wing Commander, Cadet First Class Christopher Von Hossel, and the Spring Cadet Wing Commander, Cadet First Class Eric Kennis, will present the class gifts to the President of the United States.
President Biden, for your dedicated service to our nation, to the United States Air Force, and to the United States Air Force Academy, it is with great pride that today's graduating class designates you, by acclamation, an honorary member of the United States Air Force Academy's class of 2023. As tangible evidence of that honor, we ask that you accept this painting by Steve Weed on behalf of the United States Air Force Academy. We will also present you with our class coin as a token of our appreciation.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Linnell Latendra, the Dean of the Faculty.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Before presenting the entire graduating class to you, I would like to highlight a few individuals for special recognition. First, I call your attention to the 97 distinguished graduates who are listed at the top of the program. These cadets, by their overall performance, have placed in the top 10% of their class and have demonstrated excellence in accomplishing the academic, military, and athletic requirements for graduation. If we observed the custom of academic honors, each would be graduating either summa cum laude, magna cum laude, or cum laude. Instead, we use the term distinguished graduate, more fitting in its promise of distinguished service to our nation. At this time, will the distinguished graduates of the Lieutenant Colonel Leo K. Thorsness class please rise to be recognized? Thank you. You may be seated. Those identified with an S beside their names are cadets graduating with the Academy Scholar distinction from the Martinson Honors Program, completing a challenging academic enrichment path through our 4-year core curriculum. We would also like to recognize those cadets who have placed in the top 10% of our academic, military, and athletic programs. Identified in your program with a star by their names are cadets graduating with academic distinction. Those identified with a wreath beside their name are cadets graduating with military distinction. And those identified in the program with a lightning bolt beside their name are cadets graduating with athletic distinction. Those exceptional 13 cadets graduating with all 3 distinctions are identified with a star within a wreath resting on 2 lightning bolts. Please stand and remain standing as I call your name. James Mayberg Landy. Brennan James Everett Romanoff. Colt Douglas Crossan. Keaton Charles Koenig. Hannah Claire Thompson. Dante Lorenzetti Cyrus. Hannah Marie Silvestro. Samuel Bryce Agnes. Luke Alexander Ruhlwing. Justin Robert Waldman. John Frederick Coons. Shay Elizabeth Burcham. Nathaniel Stewart Bean. Congratulations, you may be seated. In conclusion, 921 Air Force Academy cadets in this year's class have completed all graduation requirements, and 230 of my warfighter scholars are heading to graduate school, a full quarter of the class. We are also pleased to have in the class 12 4-year exchange cadets hailing from Cambodia, Jordan, Republic of Korea, Malaysia, Peru, Poland, Romania, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Thailand, and Tunisia. Will these cadets please stand again together and be recognized? Thank you. You may be seated. It now gives me great pleasure to present to you, Mr. President, the United States Air Force Academy, Lieutenant Colonel Leo K. Thorsness, Class of 2023, and recommend each as worthy of the Bachelor of Science degree.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Arthur W. Primus, Jr., Director of Admissions, and Dr. Hal Taylor, Jr., Associate Dean for Student Academic Affairs and Academy Registrar, will now present the diplomas to the graduating class of 2023.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Joe Biden, joins us on stage to congratulate each of the graduates of the class of 2023. Will the distinguished graduates please rise and come forward to receive your diplomas?
The class of 2023's #1 cadet in overall performance and #1 cadet in academic performance, James Mayberg Landy.
Brennan James Everett Romanoff.
Colt Douglas Krausen.
Keaton Charles Koenig.
Omar Sufyan Ulali.
Hannah Claire Thompson.
Dante Lorenzetti Cyrus.
Hannah Marie Silvestro.
Samuel Bryce Angus.
Luke Alexander Rollwing.
Justin Robert Waldman.
Claire Hughes Melton.
Lance David Daig.
Emma Elizabeth Arbanas.
Sarah Nicole Mershak.
John Frederick Coons.
Carter Howard Margulis.
Shay Elizabeth Burcham.
William Scott Mockle.
Nathaniel Stewart Bean.
Haley Alexis Diome.
Nicholas Xavier Hawley.
Christopher William Von Hossel.
Timothy Debretsoff.
Zachary James Alciems.
Paulo Felipe Martinez Riviere.
Timothy.
Noah Thomas Stout.
Anna Isabella Kemper.
Nathaniel Burgess Bone.
Alexander Rand Kleitz.
Noah Charles Werner.
Megan Elizabeth Wynn.
Jared Lamont Slack.
Maria Brasculi Lasala.
Christopher Kim Agnew.
Zachary Kenneth Olson.
Nathaniel Carey Rexroad.
Devin Clark Wazalewski.
Gabriel Sebastian Akins.
Jonah Munjun Nascimento.
Hunter Michael Hughes.
Mitchell Drew Amstutz.
Lucas Jonathan Bo Yantis.
Jack Andrew Ninos.
Madeline Ann Williams.
George Maxwell Pingree.
Sarah Mackenzie Hauser.
Michael Louis Antonino.
Jetta Faye Kroll.
Benjamin Michael Steeren.
Nicole Danielle Gish.
Brandon James Cook.
Madeline Rose Fisher.
Trevor Michael Anderson.
Dalton Lee Weigel.
Skylar Lyon Royce.
Jason Faulkner Wild.
Quinn Anthony Henry.
Michael Garrett McGahey.
Sean Michael Collins.
Joseph Vaughn Roy.
Woodrow Vi Turbeville.
Madison Isabella Marsh.
Jeremy Marcus Vallejos.
Graham Marshall Elder.
Caden Warren Wilson.
Cleo Mary Cowie.
Francesca Maria Moore.
Claire Catherine Jean Porter.
Christoph Castange Lativio.
Aiden James Gardner.
Brian Mingja Melching.
Jacob Allen Stensley.
Joseph Presley Mucklestone.
Oliver Hans Grasdahl.
James Carroll Morrison.
Joshua Todd Sorensen.
Christian Cole Ingersoll.
Jessica Linnell Honor.
Suhas Jivanid.
Jacob Dakota Kahn.
Logan John Brown.
Mabley Becerra.
Zion Christopher Lawrence Johnson.
Amy Yuzu Kang.
Catherine Elizabeth Van Havel.
Tyler Chase Thatcher.
Margaret Claire Warner.
Benjamin Wayne Light.
Kennedy Lynn Nevling.
Sydney Milan Fitch.
Morgan Ray Dean.
Matthew David Dickerman.
Aiden Joseph Boyle.
Motaz Mohammed Ahmed.
Jason Daniel Muff.
Robert John Peterson. Will the remainder of the graduates of 2023 please come forward by squadron to receive your diplomas? Ladies and gentlemen, joining President Biden on stage, to your left, Secretary of the Air Force, the Honorable Frank Kendall, and the Superintendent of the Air Force Academy, Lieutenant General Richard Clark. To your right, Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Charles Q. Brown, Jr., and the Commandant of Cadets, Brigadier General Paul Moga.
Cadet Squadron 1, Harley John Inez.
Luke Van Caldwell.
Maxwell Addison Deal.
Cole Albert Forrester.
Austin Joseph Helm.
James Chin Howerkin.
Caleb Jeremiah Kempler.
Davis Aaron Koski.
Naya Marie Martinez.
Samara Nairi Mason.
Manmeeth Carr Pelia.
Drayton Ramsey Pohl.
Tristan Tyler Sloan.
Josiah David Stearns.
Gridawat Suute.
Jillian Suzanne Valente.
Jennifer Renee Vandenberg.
Nicole Ann Williams.
Cadet Squadron 2, Joshua Tyler Bates.
William Gray Brinson.
Lendell Royce Brown III.
Catherine Ruth Cavender.
Jacob Alexander Del Rosario.
Frederick James Fees IV.
Alfred Kendall Flowers III.
James Braden Foran.
Matthew Minshook Hahn.
Andrew Joseph Hartnett.
Cole Patrick Johnson.
Jake Thomas Johnson.
Glenn Harrison Jones.
Hayden Drake Peoples.
Solomon Ephraim Pierre Louis.
Ainsley Akane Prinz.
Sean Richard.
Emma Kate Smith.
Nathaniel Adam Spidell.
Mackenzie Steiner.
Carly Elizabeth Wallace.
Jordan Lewis Williams.
Luke John Wojcik.
Cadet Squadron 3, Lucas Owen Amerson.
Skylar Marie Burke.
Charles Branston Coward.
Catherine Margaret Crabtree.
Madison Elise Edwards.
Aiden Carlisle Ellisor.
Dylan Allen Frankhauser.
Cale Lewis Franklin.
Isla Haruka Frazier.
Owen Emmanuel Gaynor.
Liam Charles Gibson.
Stephanie Renee Gregerson.
Matthew Raymond Hamilton.
Madison Nicole Mannion.
Taylor Andrew Metzger.
Luke Anid Powdell.
Michael Alexander Prater.
Alexandria Marie Schweer.
Jack Andrew Wachtel.
Andrew Colin Waite.
Finian Ellis Westenfelder.
Evan James Patton Zanoli.
Cadet Squadron 4. Murad Amer Abzak.
Shelby Glee Apodaca.
Taylor Nicole Bellew.
Devin Michael Burkhart.
Ryan Lee Clements.
Mackenzie Nicole Eddy.
Samuel Joseph Gilman.
Thomas Christy Hellman.
Kalen Robert Johnson.
Ryan Stewart Johnson.
Thomas Robert Jones Jr.
Ty Alexander Kim.
Marlene Tumbleweed Lorber.
Jessica Gabriella Diavola Malone.
Gavin Scott Peen.
Emily Suzanne Reeves.
Spencer Riley Schwalm.
Hava Ruslan Tassarni.
Rachel Eileen Werner.
Feiyu Shui.
Cadet Squadron 5. Jacob Lee Angeletti.
Haley Marie Bruncol.
Caleb Robert Chambers.
Josiah Timothy Cole.
Christopher Cole Collins.
Daniel Tobin DeYoung.
Braden Christopher Ford.
Nicholas Timothy Frazier.
Marshall Austin Fry.
Maxwell Anthony Graves.
Keegan Viet Huang.
Alan Joseph Kobelik.
Geeth Bindana Kodakara.
Sarah Taylor Lane.
Scott Allen Mason.
Joseph Gregory Mertz.
Yakub Mishak.
Catherine Grace Sawyer.
Joshua Ahmad Scahill.
Camden Andrew Schieffer.
Alexandra Taylor Soul.
Laura Catherine Wade.
Shannon Nicole Williams.
Christopher Anthony Zarek.
Win Knight Jong.
Cadet Squadron 6, Morgan Jane Adams.
Kenneth Lewis Davison III.
Jesus Alexander Diaz Ormeno.
Grace Elaine Everts.
William Forrest Harbin.
Amori Jakara Hardy.
Justin Allen Harmon.
Grayson James Herrera.
Colin Dean Jensen.
Zachary Kayinalu Litsky.
Elizabeth Rose Lopez.
Cody Scott May.
Walla Manai.
Matthew Robert Mansour.
Zachary Thomas Marine.
Chanutia Nu.
Benjamin Thomas Peterson.
Kayla Noel Phillips.
Brittany Joe Stanley.
Brandon Noah Van Meter.
Joshua Joseph White.
Cadet Squadron 7. Ji Hyun On.
Dennis Lloyd Bloschke III.
Brianna Jasmine Carswell.
Andrew Richard Deaver.
Elton Grace Gingrich.
Jacob Stephen Hannes.
Alexis Janae Hunter.
Riley James Keck.
Anna Sophia Little.
Aaliyah Dayan Martlet.
Madeline Louisa McFadden.
Samuel Patrick Metzler.
Aiden McGuire Nolan.
Jarrett Matthew Preet.
Benjamin David Rath.
Grace Ern Cian.
Faith Rebecca Sigala.
Keegan Joseph Smith.
John Robert Snyder.
Ashay Stephen.
Seth Thomas Swain.
Chelsea Lynn Taylor.
Victor Manuel Baristo.
William Madison Yates IV.
Cadet Squadron 8. Corey Joe Beach.
Nicholas David Bourgeois.
Bailey James Brown.
John Alexander Coe.
Tyler John Delzell.
Ava Richmond Damon.
Charlotte Sullivan Fitzgerald.
Eric Long Fossen.
Jolie Ann Groon.
John Hayward Henderson.
Christopher William Kane.
Caden Michael Cotter.
Felipe Eduardo Manny.
Carter Hugh Murphy.
Caitlin Lee Nethercutt.
John Edward Neiman.
Ellen Hara O.
Allison Grace Finney.
Gavin Mitchell Wright.
Mason Ryan Roach.
Natalie Renee Root.
Connor Daniel Rude.
Dawson J. Simmeroff.
Alexander Mansour Somé.
Cadet Squadron 9. London Prince Agetu.
Arden Jewel C. Amazan.
Mary Arden Black.
Elijah Raymond Busey.
Ethan John Grandolfo.
Garrett Jeffrey Greenwood.
Sierra Sky Hillard.
Joseph Richard Castle.
Alexander Scott Kreider.
Jaden Scott Kring.
Andrew Liu.
Sarah Elizabeth Markwart.
Devin Alexander O'Connor.
Brian Park.
Sophia McQuaid Parlock.
Mark Henry Prevalor.
Myra Elizabeth Quintana.
Seth Forrest Rivera.
Benjamin Seymour Smith.
Camden Lee Vanderswag.
Sophia Taryn Vaughn.
Cadet Squadron 10. Spencer James Adam.
Tatum Grace Bolt.
Amber May Bowl.
Michael Antonio Brunson.
Taylor Matthew Coffey.
Kevin Patrick Donnelly.
Robert Julian Dwyer.
Stephen Ralph Ferrara Jr.
Camry Jaylyn Heath.
Catherine Grace Hess.
Samuel Frazer Horick.
Tommy Jackson LaMarche Granger.
Walker Bertram Morris.
Ariane Joyce Nonan.
Nicholas Stephen Reed.
Jide Yubi Robinson.
Matthew Frank Rosa.
Adam James Simon.
Joseph Lewis Skodnicki.
Jackson Dane Stratton. Ashley Faye Weidenbach.
Timothy Eli Whetstone. Jenna Mulder.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining President Biden on stage to your left, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General Charles Q. Brown, Jr., and the Dean of the Faculty, Brigadier General Linnell Latendra. To your right, the Chief of Space Operations, General B. Chance Saltzman, and the Director of Athletics, Mr. Nathan Pine. Cadet Squadron 11, Daniel Liddell Anand.
Trace Logan Sear.
Morgan Hunter Ehrig.
Mackenzie Joan Cummer.
Lillian Catherine Larson.
William Isaac Liffrig.
Jennifer Francis McFadden.
Nolan Patrick Murphy.
Justin Andrew Pacheco.
Riley Madison Payson.
Clayton Reese Randall.
Rachel Marie Schaefer.
Peter Daniel Spengler.
Christopher Michael Stefanski.
Nathan Thomas Beastol.
Jace Gunnar Waters.
Brian Wint.
Cadet Squadron 12. Rochelle Justine Allen.
Spencer Dolan Anderson.
Rachel Lee Bay.
Jacob David Boffman.
Jaden Valentine Clooney.
John Ryan Cook.
Hunter Roland Deal.
Luke Calloway Gwynn.
Nicholas Dane Hastings.
John Cole Hermanson.
Anthony Carl Hinson.
Benjamin John Knutson.
Arjun Coley.
Hannah Annabelle Lee.
Quinn Thomas Malofchik.
Cletian Andres Mondalongo.
Isabel Elena Morgan.
Johnny Lawson Nemechek.
Lance Andrew Nichols.
Catherine Grace Pendergrass.
Desiree Lachey Reed.
William Dale Rhyme.
Kevin Yoon Ki So.
Reese Avery Willman.
Cadet Squadron 13, Jared Christopher Shiego Academia.
Gabrielle Victoria Renee Auerbach.
Alejandro Casimiro Benavides.
Harmony Jarrell Blackstock.
Karsten Alexander Brown.
Kevin Brennan Carrig.
Landon Blake Chandler.
Josiah John Devaloy.
Rebecca Lucille Flott.
Ashlyn Shea Foster.
Danielle Alexis Franzen.
Alexander Charles Hole.
Harlan Perez Giroux.
Cameron Lindley Karras.
Garth Leo Knudsen.
Nicholas Joseph Krug.
Shepard Henry Cruz.
Marte Ashawn Mayfield.
Isaac Dwayne Melvin.
Shannon Brielle Osoba.
Cadet Squadron 14, Siri Nato Akia.
Matthew Davis Benson.
Ariana Guinevere Blazico.
Shad Nicholas Bruce.
Jared Tyler Burdett.
Anna Catherine Caldwell.
Lance Everett Campbell.
Cassandra Joy Dudas.
Ethan Jorentz Moyat Arazo.
Isabella Nicole Gentili.
Madison Claire Gillen.
Ben Tyler Hepner.
Patrick Joseph Koenig.
Andrew George Cruz.
Amelia McLaughlin.
Colin James O'Brien.
Tristan Grant Paller.
Austin McKee Park.
Daniel Junyoung Park.
Ethan Sean Patel.
William Logan Santiago.
Cadet Squadron 15. Alyssa Page Angelino.
Annika Ray Benson.
Isabel Melina Boggs.
Blake Arthur Corrett.
Tristan James Denholm.
Patrick James Irwin.
James Quentin Henderson.
Tyler Van Hinson.
Benjamin David Jefferson.
Jeremy Greer Capel.
Robert John Kirsten.
Holman Key.
Isaac Samuel Lane.
Ella Shea Mangles.
Joshua Preston McConnell.
Braxton Cole McFall.
Razvan Moldovanu.
Travis James Moore.
Chase Alexander Riddell.
Hannah Noel Schuster.
Andrew Creek Smith.
Alexander John Stamp.
Kyle Oliveros Villacorta.
Stephen Gregory White.
Cadet Squadron 16. Marone Abraham Acker.
Lauren Taylor Brashear.
Dylan Scott Bumpus.
Allison Renee Castillo.
Richard Aaron Day.
Thomas Winfield Ingleby.
Ethan Proctor Lenore.
Jared Thomas Luark.
Emily Rose Lukowski.
Patrick Joseph Madan.
Ethan John Marshall.
Zandria Nicole Roquid.
Dayton Carl Settee.
Colin Michael Seymour.
Trinity Nicole Wilson.
Kimberly Ann Wolfenden.
Cadet Squadron 17. John Walter Bezuski.
Aiden Thomas Campbell.
Matthew Christian Core.
Samuel Forrester Donnellan.
Adrian Eduardo Falcon.
Addie Marie Forbes.
Alexandra Starling Gardner.
Price Danner Johnson.
Daniel B.G. Joseph.
Sophie Marie Taylor Keene.
Andy Doyle Ledbetter II.
Logan Decker Martin.
Antonio Jose Martinez.
Jonathan Parker Miles.
Daniel Adam Nesberg.
Gabrielle Athena Peltier.
Adam John Pelsman.
Douglas Henry Poole.
Cameron Michael Root.
Zachary Edward Russell.
Cadet Squadron 18. Nehemiah Byron Arriaga.
Jennifer Tofika Bana.
Usama Nihad Bamye.
Ray Elliott Benson IV.
Jonathan Lee Branson.
Frederica Nakia Shari.
William Warren Curtis III.
Avery Matthew Dollarhide.
Abigail Lee Gary.
Bradley Alexander Gonzalez.
Joseph Francis Hughes.
Laurel Ann Claus.
Matthew Robert LaRosa.
Bryce Alexander McCool.
Matthew Walter Miller.
Nathan Min Pack.
Kana Tierra Richards.
Jason Monroe Sugar.
J. Allen Stearns.
Ryan Noel Stifler.
Ryan Edward Storr.
Devin John Field.
Shane Alexander Bowman.
Colton Kenneth Woods.
Cadet Squadron 19. Tristan Lee Barton.
Cole Michael Callahan.
Joseph Daniel.
Aiden Patrick Dietrich.
Charles Anthony Irwin.
Grace Marie Fleming.
Edward Nicholas Fowler.
Madison Rosemary Jewel Hirsch.
Brooklyn Abby Messenger.
Kyle Robert Patterson.
Carly Alexandra Pinnell.
Micah Paul Pugh.
Bradley Brian Roberts.
Nathan William Sand.
Henry Dwayne Scholes.
Daniel Sevilla.
Lauren Nicole Zimlick.
Cadet Squadron 20. Lauren Elizabeth Bogue.
Nathan Ray Brush.
Z. Eduardo Cardenas II.
Bennett Wolf Copley.
Camden Patrick Donahoe.
Harold B. Fatso.
Andrew John Hancock.
Sarah Elizabeth Hetzel.
Richard Michael Hirth III.
Nicholas Jermaine Jackson.
Michaela Ray Conkle.
Catherine Mary Lewis.
Bailey Rose McFall.
Christian Thomas Moody.
Nicholas Masa Nakaoka.
Max Kendrick Perkins.
Alexa Grace Quilliam.
Alessandra Azuro Ramundo.
Desmond Lawrence Rodriguez.
Dylan Robert Sinclair.
Oliver Zachary Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, joining President Biden and our presenters on stage, Ms. Jennifer Block, Executive Director of Athletics. Cadet Squadron 21, Brendan Joel Anderson.
William Irving Bollinger.
Ashley Nicole Burke.
Michael Patrick Easterday Cheney.
Leslie Kuname.
Brandon Martin Dodd.
Rebecca Grace Giacomazzi.
Gabriel Reynolds Kirchhoff.
The class of 2023's #1 cadet in athletic performance, Dylan James Martinez.
Cameron Danielle McKennell.
Paul Michael Medina.
Serena Ann Minka.
Jeremy Nicholas Murphy.
Skylar Ann Riley.
Jason Joseph Rose.
Jacob Evan Rush.
Nicole Betty Sheaf.
Allison Hope Stauffer.
Christopher Joseph Sunshine.
Kobe Taylor Thompson.
Kylie Ann Tollefson.
Eric Van.
Cadet Squadron 22, Mason Tillman Altenball.
Simon Alexander Banks.
Connor Aiden Barberi.
Shakira I. Cologne Madera.
Gabriel Michael Downing.
Alexander Nicholas Fournier.
Sean Clayton Freeman.
Christopher Joseph Hout.
Kaylin Juanita Hobbs.
Tia Michelle Kolakowski.
Philip Andrew Luba.
Evan Noble Marshall.
Timothy Gerard McClendon.
Todd Thomas McGovern.
Claire Elizabeth Mulholland.
Dominic Robert Oshlisniuk.
Justin William Parsons.
Delaney Nicole Pollock.
German Thaddeus Schwartz.
Braden Ray Swanson.
Stephen Dale Thompson.
Bradley Carl Westhauser.
Mitchell Reed Wolfley.
Cadet Squadron 23. Colton Glenn Bassford.
Jeremiah Tyree Birdsong.
Anjay Vitold Buniovsky.
Angelo Leonardo Capriola.
Blake Philip Coven.
Cassidy Ann Eiding.
Samuel Nicholas Gannis.
Ian Michael Geneza.
Kakoa Timpani Gross.
Devin Alita Grundvig.
Ian Robert Honthorn.
Rita Elizabeth Jerome.
Justin Elsukju Jung.
Jackson Lee Landers.
Tracy Jordan Love.
Kyla Ann Milford.
Samuel Wenlong Radcliffe.
Traden Masao Tamiya.
Zachariah Ellis Werhan.
Jonathan Hayes Wilkie.
Cadet Squadron 24. Ziad Mohammed Belhashmi.
Elijah Aaron Brandt.
Connor John Callahan.
Thomas John Corpus.
Alvern Elizabeth Dyer.
Adriana Grace Francis.
Hunter Kanaino Eao Hiroshi Fujitani.
Joshua Reynolds Gray.
Cooper Delaney Hammond.
John Thomas Jessen.
Taya Patrick McMillan.
Miles Odin Wei Ming Peter.
Lauren McNerlin Reed.
Conrad Samuel Reet.
Joshua Keith Sheldon.
Elena Marie Struby.
Mark Anthony Tinkin.
Bennett Alexander Whitney.
Cadet Squadron 25. Renee Audrey Anderson.
Brendan Scott Bentley.
Jacob Robert Bowers.
Anthony Jose Charles.
Sophia Rose Davis.
Andrew Michael Ely.
Joshua Dean Fields.
Anna Catherine Forneris.
Scarlett Marie Garden Friend.
Trevor Glenn Hawley.
Caden James Hubner.
Spencer Allen Johnson.
John Andrew Kramer.
Grant Erickson Leap.
Devin Michael Nelson.
Ian Ray Rodriguez.
Jacob Ryan Schmaltz.
Jungmin Soup.
Jonathan Michael Shear.
Caitlin Brooke Smith.
Jessica Donna Stager.
Katerina Alexia Spetz.
Enrique Antonio Thompson.
Ryan Michael Yezik.
Cadet Squadron 26. Hayden Ross Archer.
Cassidy K. Bassett.
Graham Barton Kluwer.
Andrew Thomas Cruzen.
Bethany Christine Duggan.
Cameron Jacob Harris.
Jeanette Elizabeth Haltulla.
Donovan Anthony Hodge.
Ruby Jacqueline Hernlin.
Haley Lynn Hoffmeister.
Elizabeth Rose Lamy.
Linus Benjamin Joseph McFarland.
Garrett Anthony Neal.
Robert Dale Colavia Pescaya.
Jake Freeman Pringle.
Caden Bailey Raymond.
Caden Joel Stein.
Karina Maureen Swift.
Valeria Alexandra Ojoa.
Cadet Squadron 27. Wyan Duke Irvin Binge.
Samuel Jacob Bryce.
Connor Michael Chase.
Nico Diego DeRose.
Christian Andrew Edwards.
Mark Isaac Johnson.
Emma Grace Jones.
Eric Basil Kennis.
Shane Sean Marshall.
Joseph Ryan Matheson.
Jason Kalana Opu'u Okalani Medieros.
Alexander John Molino.
Jared Daniel Montgomery.
Benjamin Tran Wynn.
Bennett J. Norland.
Savannah Joyce Petty.
George William Ritchie.
Nicholas Kai Schwendeman.
Allison Kathleen Thompson.
Zachary David Wall.
William Marshall Westerling.
Donovan Lee Williams.
Cadet Squadron 28. Abigail Renee Asplund.
Gabriel Fernando Bartolome.
Zachary Norton Benson.
Hayden Cooper Bullock.
Benny Chung. Christian Joseph Gabriel.
Ryan Matthew Hayden.
Jaden Andrew Hoyt.
Isabella Boris Ilchenko.
Andrew James Kuipers.
Noah Walker Marshall.
Jacob Michael Radetz.
Aaliyah Jasmine Ricketts.
Zhao Sheng Shun.
Grant Charles Snyder.
Courtney Lauren Swift.
Jacob Lawrence Williams.
Juliana Danielle Waldman Winters.
Cadet Squadron 29, Mark Andrew Eiler-Heiligen.
Luke Charles Arkell.
Hannah Caitlin Barber.
Nathaniel Scott Bassett.
Micah Spicer Center.
Ethan Davis Dybert.
Colleen Marie Gayhart.
William Daniel Ide.
Ryan Anthony Kinzer.
Graham William Lakin.
Jared Nathaniel Leopard.
Noah Robert Luna.
Morgan Patrick O'Brien.
Jace William Pittman.
Jessica Marie Kuros.
Daniel Christopher Simons.
Cameron Casey Slade.
Nicholas Andrew Swanson.
Joshua James Towes.
Gunnar Pace Wessels.
Emma Catherine Wood.
Cadet Squadron 30. Tori Michael Bartlett.
Blake Forrest Bride.
Thomas Ross Badritis.
Sarah Magali Dazinski.
Caleb Benjamin Delage.
Jacob Andrew Dennis.
Nicholas Edward Ells.
Tate Hennigan Fletcher.
Cameron Scott Hawthorne.
Jeremiah Kent Hoppy.
Edwin Matthew Koost.
Joseph Jungmin Lee.
Crystal Danny Levy.
Cephalina Malaya Miley.
Larson Stone McCarroll.
Ethan McCann Olney.
Ty Garen Gordon Pachapinski.
Sydney Franklin Reyes.
Anthony Gray Torres.
Maya Marlame Wirtz.
Michelle Alvarez Wisniewski. Ladies and gentlemen, joining President Biden on stage to your left, the Secretary of the Air Force, the Honorable Frank Kendall, and the Superintendent of the Air Force Academy, Lieutenant General Richard Clark. To your right, the Chief of Space Operations, General B. Chance Saltzman, and the Commandant of Cadets, Brigadier General Paul Moga.
Cadet Squadron 31, Grace Ann Beach.
Alan Earl Benson II.
Luke Matthias Burgles.
Richard David Brown.
Connor Blake Carey.
Catherine Suzanne Carr.
Benjamin Bryce Fonville.
Trevor Anthony Grigas.
Trevor Mitchell Greenewald.
Michaela Ryan Howe.
Garrett Elijah Kim.
Gabriel Rose La Rochelle.
Miku Harmony LaValle.
Madison Ann Martin.
Joseph Lee McCullum II.
Joy Jen Metzler.
Christian Prisas.
Rachel McPherson Price.
Christopher John Soliani.
Devin Bruce Steinman.
Cadet Squadron 32, Shayla Veronica Alda.
Kyle Stanley Baker.
Mackenzie Page Bloom.
Chloe Marie Paris Cabrera.
Patrick Dwight Caratini.
Jordan David Dutcher.
Aiden Francis Francombe.
Joseph Andrew Fuentes.
Meredith Elaine Hickman.
Radislav Joseph Korzeniak.
Shane Joseph Linterer.
Grant William Morgan.
Tomas Francisco Olivas.
Wesley Samuel Park.
Elijah Malik Robinson.
Christopher Peter Sylvester.
Micah Henry Treptow.
Lewis Quinn Walker.
Benjamin Luke Wanyura.
Eric Rufus Wills II.
Cadet Squadron 33, Trinity Ann Abdukalik.
Nora Fushtosh Ashoff.
Mason Kendall Brown.
Andrew Joseph Cabo.
Cole Jacob Coppice.
Kai Maxwell Gill.
Beck Thomas Grasser.
Kai William Guzman.
Griffin Scott Hemingway.
Addison John Howland.
Gina J. Jenkins.
Tyler Neal Johnson.
Trevor Francis Lanigan.
Michaela Jean Mickle.
Mary Margaret Moriarty.
Colin Wade Pointer.
Nolan David Zabochik.
Calvin Gibbs Swafford.
Kyle Joseph Ublacker.
Cadet Squadron 34. James Hayward Adams.
Hazik Daniels.
Brianna Estelle Edwards.
David James Gochner.
Jonathan Ezra Godwin.
Espen Nicholas Grosdahl.
Tyler Reed Johnson.
Aubrey Lauren Kurt.
Noah Gazoon Lieva.
Jonathan Pietro Mascani.
Lisa Michelle McCormick.
Nolan Shea Penoyer.
Jose Rubio Jr.
Ethan James Schofield.
Kenya Imani Smith.
Susan Abigail Walker.
Patrick Chong-hee Yi.
Cadet Squadron 35. Enrique Luis Arjona.
Alexis Ajalee Bishop.
Amaya Khalees Breeding.
Jake Johnson Chaffetz.
Benjamin James Dufashard.
Megan Lee Duvall.
Eric David Glass.
Julia Brooke Gunlock.
Ryan Isaac Hummel.
John Douglas Krolik.
Matthew Edward Lashua.
Allison Elizabeth Lord.
Samuel Robert Lowry.
Nicolette Rose McDonald.
Hayden John Moody.
Levi Oliver Moss.
Cooper James Olson.
Keon Isaiah Singleton.
Keenan Patrick Sweeney.
Noah Marcel Thomas.
Andrew Kojo Van Lair.
Cooper Michael Wilkin.
Tariq Anthony Wiltz.
Cadet Squadron 36. Zachary Aiden Beatty.
Keandre Deshawn Brayboy.
Eris Simone Butler.
Zoe Elizabeth Calicote.
Alana Kaylee Crompton.
Jacob Barton Garbrecht.
Tia Tomas Gibson.
Sebastian Giraldo.
Alexander Nicholas Herjoy.
Sophia Camille Hurdle.
Jackson Patrick McFadden.
Levi Montgomery Mertens.
Ethan Thomas Story.
Zachary Robert Savetics.
Daniil Andreevich Toroshev.
Julie Ann Trimber.
Cameron Alexander Allen.
Brooks Adam Bird.
William Richard Florence.
Nathaniel William Garcia.
Connor Timothy Hoback.
Maxwell James Kane.
Robert Lamar Lawson.
Dalton Hurst Malone.
The class of 2023's #1 cadet in military performance, Catherine Ann Manning.
Jason Xavier Metzger.
Dotson Robert Rhodes Piotrowski.
Tyler John Rior.
Erica Paulina Rivera.
Spencer Ray Roop.
Abigail May Spitler.
Kirill Olegovich Telmanov.
Jason Noble Tilley.
Zoe Grace Vestal.
Christopher Charles Winters.
Cadet Squadron 38. Paige Iolani Andrews.
Carlos Andres Areola.
Isaac James Bowers.
Gerald Raven Caldwell.
Mark Anthony Capola.
Dominic Aiden Flack.
Will Sonny Hall.
Corbin Christopher Hodge.
Troy David Jenkins.
Faith Chung Un Lee.
Hannah Noel Martinez.
Cameron Nicole Alkowski.
Braden Cole Pauley.
Alexandra Lindsay Paxton.
Alexander David Singh.
Susan Allen Young.
Cadet Squadron 39. Eric Evan Althouse.
Curtis Patrick Anderson.
Alexander James Bach.
Drake Kendall Barberi.
Bennett Giacomini Brewer.
Talia Tanique Cooper.
Theodosia Kiana Etienne.
Jordan Ray Gardner.
Caroline Faith Harshbarger.
Candace Rosemarie Henderson.
Ashford Toussaint Hollis.
Hayden Grant Eisenhart.
Matthew James Latin, Jr.
Adam Daniel Lubenthal.
Peter Edmund Meehan.
Christopher Lawrence Misklevitz.
Hayden Anthony Milacrane.
Henry Field Stafford.
Maya Ichko Thorson.
Yep. Cadet Squadron 40. Catherine Wallace Bakken.
Sophia Renee Sharamonte.
Garrett Ralston Crew.
Filipos Athanasios Dimitroglou.
Kirolos Ishak Georgi.
Catalin Alonia Gossett.
Keely Matea Heminger.
Andrew Zachary Hootman.
Brandon Min Kim.
Sabrina Marie Kim.
Austin Lee Lane.
Maya Elizabeth McGonigal.
Juliana Ray McKeon.
Angel Ramirez.
Maxime Pierre Marie Resnick.
Merrick Adam Seeley.
Nathaniel Jackson Stout.
Simon Sabat.
Matthew Charles Thompson.
David Lang Tao. James Zachary Zirkle.
Wing, 10 shot. Mr. President, thank you for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, the President will be departing immediately following the Air Force and Space Force songs and dismissal of the class of 2023. Please rise as Brigadier General Paul D. Moga, Commandant of Cadets, administers the oath of office for the United States Air Force and Space Force.
Graduates of the Lieutenant Colonel Leo K. Thorson's class of 2023, will you please raise your right hand, and after I read the oath of office, signify your acceptance by saying, "I do." Do each of you, having been appointed a second lieutenant in the United States Air Force or United States Space Force, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that you take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office upon which you are about to enter, so help you God. Please remain standing for the Air Force and Space Force songs. Class of 2023, you are dismissed.
Stadium gates will open after the Thunderbirds Air Show. We appreciate your safe and orderly departure from the stadium today. The meeting point for lost visitors or children is at the south side of the stadium under the scoreboard. If you become separated or lost, please plan on reuniting there following today's ceremony.